Summer nights feel safe when you're around a campfire, laughing with friends, under stars that never blink. But the heat has a way of drawing things out, things that shouldn't be seen, things that wait until the sun goes down. Because when the world goes quiet and the firelight fades, that's when the stories begin. These are 3 creepy true summer night horror stories. And after you hear them, you might never look at the warm season the same again. Story 1. The Fire Pit Thing. It was mid-July 2018. Hot enough during the day to make you sweat doing nothing. But by night, the woods around my cousin's cabin in rural Minnesota cooled down just enough to light a fire and get lost in the sound of the trees. This place was really far from anything. No neighbors, no cell service. Just thick forest and a single dirt road in and out. It was me, my cousin Danny, and my younger brother Joel. We were all in our 20s, and we'd planned this weekend to catch up. No distractions, no internet, just firewood, fishing, and a cooler full of beer. The first night went normal. We cooked food over the fire pit behind the cabin, told old high school stories, made fun of each other. As the sun dipped and the sky turned that deep blue summer purple, the forest came alive with the sound of crickets, frogs, and the occasional owl. Then around midnight, something shifted. The bugs stopped. All of them. The whole forest went dead quiet. Even the breeze seemed to vanish. I noticed first and said something. Danny stood up with a confused look and said, "You hear that?" Joel was already scanning the tree line with his phone flashlight. That's when we heard it. Rustling in the woods. Not like an animal scurrying through the leaves. This was slow, heavy, like someone was pacing just out of view, forward. Pause, then back again. We got quiet, all of us listening hard. I called out, "Hello?" No answer, but the pacing stopped too. After a minute, Danny tried to laugh it off. Probably a raccoon or deer. Big deal, but his voice was tighter than before. We doused the fire halfway, went inside and locked the door. Even pulled the blinds just in case. The cabin was small. 2 bedrooms and a loft. I was sleeping on the pull-out couch. It was just after 2:30 a.m. when I woke up again. I couldn't say why, no noise. No dream, just this weird sensation, like I was being watched. I sat up, rubbed my eyes, and turned toward the window that looked out over the fire pit, and that's when I saw it. There was someone or something standing at the edge of the fire ring. The fire had died down, just glowing coals and a soft ember light. But it was enough to see the shape clearly. It was tall, thin, its limbs too long, like it had been stretched. I could see one of its arms just hanging unnaturally low. The way it stood perfectly still was the worst part. Not like it was resting or even curious. Just waiting. I held my breath, froze completely. Didn't even dare blink. Then it turned its head toward the window. Not all the way. Just slightly, like it was letting me know it knew I was watching. I could feel the weight of it, the way it stared. No eyes that I could see, just the shape of a tilted skull, bent at the wrong angle. I wanted to call for Danny or Joel, but my throat locked up. All I could do was watch. After a full minute, it moved. Not by walking, it just melted backward into the woods. Like it slipped behind the darkness, and the night swallowed it whole. I didn't sleep after that. I sat on the couch, gripping the pocket knife I kept in my backpack. When the sun rose, I finally woke the others and told them what I saw. Joel thought I dreamed it. Danny didn't say much. He just got real quiet and started checking outside. That's when he saw the tracks around the fire pit. A full circle of footprints, bare feet, but not quite human. They were too long, too wide. And one of them had 6 toes, clear as day in the soft soil. We packed up early that morning. Didn't stay the extra night we'd planned. Even though it was a 2-hour drive back to town, we didn't care. We needed to get out of there. Later that week, Danny called me. He sounded shaken. Said he looked up local legends about the area. Apparently, there's an old Ojibwe legend about spirits that walk the forests in the summer. They're drawn to fire, to noise, to people who don't respect the woods. They call them the waiting ones. I don't know what I saw that night, but I know this: it wasn't a person, it wasn't an animal, and whatever it was, it had no reason to be near our fire, unless it wanted to be seen. Sometimes the scariest thing isn't what makes noise, it's what stays silent, what watches from the dark and doesn't flinch. That fire was supposed to keep them safe, but maybe it was the reason it showed up. And just when you think you've had your fill of fear, the next story reminds us that some things crawl closer when you're completely alone, especially when there's nowhere to run but into the corn. Story 2. The Man in the Cornfield. In the summer of 2020, I took a job as a night security guard at a grain facility in a small town in Indiana. It wasn't glamorous, but it paid well, and the hours were peaceful. Just me, a flashlight, and the sound of cicadas and wind rustling through the endless rows of corn behind the plant. The grain mill sat right on the edge of a massive cornfield. Hundreds of acres, flat, dry, and silent after dark. My nightly rounds were simple. Walk the perimeter, check the office locks, and keep an eye on the old cameras in the security shack. For the first 2 weeks, everything was normal, boring, even, but the last week of July, something changed. It started on a Monday night. I remember it vividly because it was the first night I forgot my headphones and had to do rounds in complete silence. That's when I noticed the cornfield didn't sound right. No wind, no bugs, no frogs, just stillness, like the air was holding its breath. Around midnight, I did my final sweep of the lot and walked toward the back fence that separated the facility from the corn. That's when I saw it, a dim orange glow deep in the field. At first, I thought it might be teenagers messing around. People used to do dumb stuff out here all the time, especially during summer break. I turned on my flashlight and called out, "Hey, you're trespassing." No answer. The light flickered once, then went out. I waited. Nothing. As I scanned the corn rows, something caught my eye. A figure, standing just inside the first row of corn. It was hard to see at first, like it didn't want to be seen, but it was there, tall, thin, its shoulders hunched forward, and its arms too long. They dangled at its sides like ropes of meat, almost down to its knees. It didn't move, didn't react to the light or my voice, just stared. I started backing away slowly, and that's when it dropped. Not to its knees, all the way to all fours. It was like watching a puppet fold in on itself. Then it moved fast. It darted deeper into the corn. No noise. No snapping stalks, just gone. I radioed it in. My supervisor said it was probably a local kid. Told me to file a report and let it go unless it happened again. But the next night was worse. It was around 2 a.m. I was sitting in the shack, drinking coffee and watching the cameras. That's when the monitors glitched, just for a second. 3 frames of static, then clear again. I didn't think much of it until I rewound the footage. There it was, in the middle of the gravel lot between the cornfield and the shack, that figure. Only this time it wasn't standing, it was crawling fast. Its limbs were bent in the wrong directions, elbows sticking up like jagged bones. In one frame, its face turned toward the camera. Blurry, but I swear it was smiling, wide lips stretched too far, eyes empty. I froze. Didn't even breathe until the footage looped back to normal. I checked outside. Nothing, not even tracks in the gravel. On the final night of my shift that week, I brought my friend Jay with me. I needed someone else to see it, to confirm I wasn't losing my mind. Around 1 a.m., we both heard it. A scream, but not like a cry for help. It was high-pitched, almost playful. It came from the cornfield. Jay looked at me, face pale. I nodded, and we grabbed the flashlights and ran to the back lot. We didn't see the figure, but we saw something else, symbols, drawn into the dirt just behind the fence, circles, marks, weird stick shapes like crooked letters. Some looked fresh, others faded, and in the center, a dead crow, laid out perfectly, its wings spread wide, its eyes missing. Jay swore right there, and then, I'm done, whatever this is. It's not just some kid, I didn't argue. That was my last shift. I quit the next day. No explanation, just turned in my badge and left. I still don't know what was out there in that cornfield, but sometimes in the dead of summer when I'm driving past open farmland at night, I catch myself scanning the edges, looking for something tall, still, watching, because whatever it was, it never moved like a man, and it definitely didn't smile like one. Whatever that thing was, it didn't want to be caught. It wanted to be seen, just long enough to follow you back into your life. And if it really was smiling in that footage, that's not something you forget. But if you think seeing something once is terrifying, what happens when it comes back the next night and knocks? Story 3. The Boy on the Lake Dock. It was the summer of 2015 when my girlfriend and I rented a cabin for the weekend in northern Michigan. We were both college students at the time, broke but lucky enough to find a last-minute listing online for a place right on a quiet lake. No motorboats, no neighbors, just a long, cracked wooden dock that reached out over dark water and trees that pressed in like a wall. The first night was perfect. We grilled, drank a little, watched fireflies blink in the woods behind the cabin. The lake looked like glass, peaceful, silent. It felt like we were the only people in the world. Around midnight, we decided to sit at the end of the dock and stargaze. The sky was clear, the moon bright. We laid there, feet dangling just above the water, pointing out constellations like kids. Then we heard it, splash, just one, like something heavy falling into the water, not far. We both looked around, confused. There were no fish big enough to make that sound. We waited. More silence. Then another splash, closer, this one heavier, almost like someone diving in. But when I shined the flashlight across the surface of the lake, it was still. No ripples, no movement. We chalked it up to nerves and went inside. Didn't think much of it. Until the second night. We'd been watching a movie when we heard a knock. Not at the door on the window facing the lake, It was soft. 2 slow taps. We froze. I walked to the window and looked out. There was no one there, just the dock stretching into darkness, and the lake reflecting the moon. That's when I noticed it, a figure, sitting at the end of the dock, small, still, like a child with its legs in the water. I couldn't make out details, just the shape. It didn't move, didn't look toward the cabin, just sat, facing the water. I whispered to my girlfriend, "You seeing this?" She stepped beside me and nodded slowly. "Is that a kid?" I opened the door, stepped out just onto the porch. The boards creaked beneath me. That's when the figure stood up. Not quickly, just rose slowly, fluidly, and took one step into the lake. I ran toward the dock with the flashlight, but by the time I reached the end, it was gone. No ripples, no sound, just still water, like nothing had ever been there. We were done after that. We didn't sleep. We stayed up all night with the lights on, jumpy at every sound the cabin made. The next morning we packed, fast, threw everything in the car, and started driving south. About 10 miles out, we stopped at a little diner for breakfast. That's when things got stranger. Our waitress was friendly, older. When she asked where we came from, we told her the name of the lake. She got real quiet, then asked which cabin. We showed her the rental listing on my phone. She stared at it. "You stayed at the Wilkins dock?" We nodded. She looked like she wanted to say something, but didn't. She just walked away, came back a minute later with another waitress and said, "Tell them what happened there." The second waitress was younger, told us her cousin drowned there as a kid about 10 years ago. Said he'd fallen off the dock while fishing with his father. They never found the body, but locals say he shows up sometimes on still nights, sitting at the edge, waiting. My girlfriend turned pale. I felt sick, because in the flashlight beam the night before, I thought I saw something just for a second. His clothes looked soaked, like he'd been in the water for hours. We didn't talk much the rest of the drive. I deleted the rental app from my phone and haven't used it since. But sometimes when I see lakes at night, I still think about that small figure sitting perfectly still at the edge of the dock, like it never left and never would. 3 summer nights, 3 moments that should have been peaceful, but instead turned into something unforgettable, something unnatural. The next time you're out by the fire or walking near the lake under a full moon, ask yourself what's hiding just outside the light, what's waiting for you to look away. Thanks for listening. This is Whispers Between Worlds. Subscribe for more true horror. And if you're sleeping with the windows open tonight, you might want to rethink that